that, it's in this sense, like liberation for one, liberation for the devotees, liberation for the demons. It's equal, but it's not equal at the same time. And mainly it's not equal, actually. Yeah. So therefore Narada Muni, at one point, he says, I'm envious of these demons. Yes. Famous verse, it's verse 30. It's Narada Muni. Many, many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. It's just a matter of focusing the mind. And then Narada explains, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service. All of us have attained the mercy of Krishna. So he goes on. So somehow or other, you have to think of Krishna. And then, starting with verse 33, Narada Muni starts explaining further about Jai and Vijay. Now, we already in the third canto, we encountered that subject. When there was the first descriptions of the creation of Lord Brahma and the first living entities who appeared in the universe. It's all part of the creation of Lord Brahma. And then, suddenly in the middle of all that, it was described how Lord Varaha appeared from the nostril of Lord Brahma. And then the story of Jai and Vijay being cursed by the four Kamars that was explained. That was the third canto, chapter 15 and around about there. So then there were three or four chapters describing the battle between Varaha and Hiranyaksha, but there was no mention of Hiranyakashipu at that point. What happened to Hiranyakashipu? One interesting little technical point is that when there are twins, the first one conceived is sort of positioned deeper into the womb of the mother. And the second one conceived is not as deep into the womb of the mother. So the first one to come out is not the oldest. I mean, we're only talking about a very short period of time, but not the oldest, but is the youngest. And the second one to come out is the older. So Hiranyaksha came out first. So he's the younger of the two. So now Narada Muni is going to inquire, because Narada has just mentioned that this Shishupal and Dantavakra, because Dantavakra, it seems, has already been killed by the Lord Shishupal just now. So there's all these questions from Yudhisthira. How can this happen? How did he was so sinful and so anti-Krishna? How did he get that type of liberation? So Narada Muni explains in verse 33 of chapter 1 of the 7th canto. Your two cousins, because they're related to Yudhisthira, your two cousins, Shishupal and Dantavakra, the sons of your maternal aunt, were formerly associates of Lord Vishnu, but because they were cursed by Brahmins, they fell from Vaikuntha to this material world. So Yudhisthira asks, what sort of curse was that? And what sort of person has the power to curse Vishnu Bhaktas, devotees of the Lord? Yeah, they were associates of Lord Vishnu. They were in Vaikuntha. So how is it possible for devotees like that to fall down? So please explain how they were cursed, associates of the Lord, were cursed to descend in material bodies like ordinary people, like us. So Narada then gets into it, and he repeats some of the same story. Jai and Vijay stop the four Kumars. Four Kumars curse Jai and Vijay. It's already been explained, but just because what's happening is it's all leading into the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev and his killing of Hiranyakashipu. So therefore he's just sort of, Narada Muni is refreshing Srimad Bhagavatam. So I was mentioning Mataji Rangadevi asked about them going back to Godhead. Verse 39 says, while Jai and Vijay, thus cursed by the sages, were falling to the material world, they were addressed as follows by the same sages who were very kind to them. O doorkeepers, after 3 births, you'll be able to return to your positions in Vaikuntha, for then the duration of the curse will have ended. So there you go. Special blessing from devotees, great devotees. So they became the two sons of Diti, Hiranyakashipu the elder, Hiranyaksha the younger, although they're twins. So it's just, I don't know what the difference in time is between, the first of a pair of twins coming out and then the second one. But anyway, there's a little difference. Yeah. And they were very respected by the demons. So then Narada Muni tells the story. First of all, he mentions about Hiranyaksha. Well, actually, Narada Muni says, first they're Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, then they're Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and just now they've been Shishupal and Dantavakra. Yeah. So, yes. So, yeah, there's mention of what was already described in detail in the third canto of the killing of Hiranyaksha. But when the Lord, Varaha, killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, the brother, was very angry, extremely angry. So, yes. Yeah, okay, that's described in the second chapter. How after Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha's brother Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and began to lament. And he complained that, this is Hiranyakashipu, complains that this Vishnu is meant to be equal to all. Samadarshana. He's meant to see everyone equally. But here, he took the side of the demigods and killed my brother Hiranyaksha. So therefore, he's not Samadarshana, he's not got equal vision. He is biased. He is prejudiced. This is a bad quality. He must be killed. Because when you got bad qualities, you should be killed. Yeah. Right. So on that basis, Hiranyakashipu was really angry with the Supreme Personality of Godhead for having killed his dear brother, which he shouldn't have done, because he's meant to be equal to all. So, yeah, therefore he deserves to be killed. So, okay. So Hiranyakashipu, filled with rage and biting his lips, Hiranyakashipu gazed at the sky with eyes that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. Pretty powerful eyes. And then he began to speak. Picked up his trident and started speaking to the demons and saying what we just said, that he's a cheater, he's prejudiced, he's unfair, so he must be killed. Yes. Yes. I shall therefore sever Lord Vishnu's head from his trunk with my trident, and with the profuse blood from his body I shall please my brother Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of sucking blood. Haribol. What can you say except Haribol? Thus shall I too be peaceful. So anyway, so like this is chapter 2 is a description basically of Hiranyakashipu. And so he says that because Vishnu is nourished, and the demigods are nourished by the sacrifices of the Brahmins, I'll kill all the Brahmins. Then Lord Vishnu will not get offerings to eat. He won't get nice subjis and salads and things. He won't get them. So he and the demigods will starve. This is what I'll do them. So then the demigods will automatically die. Krishna. You can see he's not quite, he hasn't studied his Srimad Bhagavatam sufficiently. He's not chanting his rounds. therefore he's got these wrong ideas. Because that's what happens when you don't chant your rounds properly. Your mind just starts getting the wrong ideas. They just appear in your mind. When you don't chant your rounds properly, and you don't study the Bhagavatam properly. So therefore he told the demons, his demon friends, go and kill the Brahmins and all of that. So they did that. The demons set fire to the cities, burned the hermitages of saintly people, etc., 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 etc. And so all this is going on. Right, so in the course of all this, Hiranyakashipu conceives a child. Actually, he had a number of children, but he conceived a child, and in the womb of his wife Kayadu, and that child was Prahlad. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things which happened actually, but we can't go through it all in so much detail. So Prahlad took birth, and Maharaj and Narada Muni tells Yudhisthira that because Hiranyakashipu harassed Prahlad, who was a great devotee, therefore the Lord killed him. And so then Narada Muni explains that Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill his son because his son became a devotee. And he really didn't like that. So, thinking that his son, Prahlad, where should we begin? Or continue on from? In chapter 3, Hiranyakashipu does his austerities. Lord Brahma comes. Lord Brahma says, ask for a benediction, I'll give you whatever I can. Hiranyakashipu asks for immortality. Brahma says, I can't give it to you because I don't have it. I can't give what I don't have. So then Hiranyakashipu asks for, to be protected from death in different ways. Please give me the benediction, I will not die during the day. Yes. I will not die during the night. Yes. I will not die on the land. Yes. I will not die in the air or on the sea. Yes. I'll not be killed by any human being or any animal or any creature created by the Lord of the creatures. Yes. I'll not be killed by any weapon. Yes. And so Hiranyakashipu thinks, I've got immortality. It was a bit of a roundabout process, but I got it in the end. Yeah, now while he was away doing his austerities, Lord Indra and the demigods invaded the heavenly, where Hiranyakashipu was living. He wasn't there. His wife was there though, Kayadu, pregnant with Prahlad. But Indra and company didn't know this is a great devotee. They're just about to kill her because they didn't want want that the child of the demon would be born, when Narada came and said, in this woman's womb is a great devotee. Don't kill her, I'll take her. So he took her to his ashram and educated her in Krishna consciousness. But Prahlad within the womb heard. So upon receiving all those instructions, Prahlad became a great devotee and was then born. And then Hiranyakashipu came back from his austerities with these benedictions from Brahma, and he wanted his son, Prahlad, to get well, to be well educated. So he was sent to a special school for the demons. After a while, Hiranyakashipu called for Prahlad from the school. So Prahlad came from the school, and Hiranyakashipu said, so tell me, what's the best thing you've learned in school? And Prahlad says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanavedanam. And Hiranyakashipu just went berserk, basically. You've become a follower of our enemy. But then, so he called for the teachers, Sundar and Amaka, and he was going to kill them. What sort of teachers are you? You're meant to be teaching them how to cheat and lie and all sorts of good things like that. So they beg Hiranyakashipu, give us another chance. So he says, okay. So Prahlad goes back to school. Now he starts preaching to his school friends, and they start having big kirtans. Then he's sent back to Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu Hiranyakashipu has him, attempts to have him killed in different ways. Thrown off a cliff, trampled by elephants, stabbed with swords, spears, bitten by poisonous snakes. Nothing will harm Prahlad. So Hiranyakashipu asks him, where do you get your power from? You've obviously got some power. Where'd you get it from? And Prahlad says, from the same place that you get your power, from Vishnu. And Hiranyakashipu just loses it. Says, where is this Vishnu then? And Prahlad says, he's everywhere. Hiranyakashipu says, is he in this column then, this pillar here? And Prahlad looks at the pillar, sees the Lord in it, and says, yes, in a straightforward way. And Hiranyakashipu smashes the pillar. And out comes Lord Nrsingadev, and the rest pretty much is history. Yeah. So Hiranyakashipu was killed not during the day and not at night. It was the twilight. Not on the land, not in the air, on the lap of the Lord. Not by a demigod or a human or an animal, but by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not by any weapon, but by the nails of the Lord. Yeah. So there you go. In the end, after Hiranyakashipu's dead, Prahlad approaches him and garlands him, Nrsingadev. Prahlad approaches the Lord and garlands him. And the Lord says, ask me for a benediction, meaning something material. And Prahlad basically refuses. But then the Lord orders him, I order you, you must ask for a benediction. So Prahlad asks that I know my father was due to go to hell. So the benediction I would like is that my father is saved from going to hell. And so the Lord grants, the Lord actually says, he's already liberated. Because of you. 20 generations in the past and into the future are liberated because you're such a great devotee. So there you go, devotees. That takes us through the first 10 chapters, very briefly, but still it does. And so then we come to the next chapter, the next section from, where are we? It's chapter 11, the perfect society for social classes. So there are descriptions from chapter 11 to chapter 15 for all the varnas and ashrams given by Narada Muni to Maharaj Yudhisthira. All sorts of different directions about the different orders of life. And, but some of them are kind of not relevant to the current age. Like, for example, what's going on? The brahmacharis. We have a brahmachari here. There he is, in samadhi. The brahmachari is described, must live in the Gurukul and do the following. Carrying pure kusha grass in his hand, the brahmachari should dress regularly with a belt of straw and with deerskin garments. He should wear matted hair, carry a rod and water pot, and be decorated with a sacred thread. So our brahmacharis, we don't have them do like that. We don't. Prabhupada never, it's just not done. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, his brahmacharis didn't also. Yeah. But self-control must be their study of the scriptures, serving the spiritual master like that. All these things must be there. Then for the grihastas, here's just a little bit about the instructions of Narada for the householders. And some of these instructions are really good for householders. They're very relevant. So, those who stay at home as householders must act to earn their livelihood. And instead of trying to enjoy the results of their work themselves, they should offer these results to Krishna. How to satisfy Krishna can be understood through the association of devotees, basically. Yeah. So a grihasta must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect hear the nectar of the activities of the Lord. In this way, gradually become detached from wife, children, etc. And there's one really interesting one. An intelligent man, householder, in human society should make his own program of activities very simple. If there are suggestions from his friends, children, parents, brothers, or anyone else, he should externally agree, saying, yes, that is all right. But internally, he should be determined not to create a cumbersome life in which the purpose of life will not be fulfilled. So there are instructions here in these chapters 11 to 15 about the varanas, about the ashrams. Some are relevant and some are partially relevant. But we need to, in order to understand what's what, we really need to get the shelter of Shastra and a spiritual master like that. Otherwise we'll be confused. Right, so where are we now? We are in the 8th canto. We're on to the 8th canto. So in the 8th canto, first of all, there's the story of, well, there's a whole lot more manus are listed out. But starting, well, let me just tell you the sections. Up to chapter 4 is the story of Gajendra. And then from 5 to 24, or 25 even, is leading up to, is the story of Vamana, basically. Things leading up to the appearance of Vamana, and then the appearance of Vamana as such. So Gajendra, you know, there's an important lesson that can be learnt in the story of Gajendra. Gajendra was an elephant. Gaja Indra means king of the elephants. And Prabhupada makes the point, it shows that even an animal can become a devotee. I mean, it can be very surprising who can become a devotee. You know, I don't want to be offensive. I think from a certain perspective it's definitely not offensive. But it is really interesting in terms of our normal experience. Is this boy Chaitanya Das? You know him, Chaitanya? What's his father's name? Parasa? Parasa Sukha? Parashara Sutta. Parashara Sutta, yeah. You know, Chaitanya, I mean, I think you all know. He's, you know, obviously some things are not like they are, say, for us sitting here in this room. And he would be considered, you know, quite severely handicapped physically and mentally. And, you know, frankly, I'm sure many parents long ago would have just left him in some sort of home or hospital or, you know, something of that sort. I'm completely sure. But they didn't, because they're devotees, and they, you know, he's 21. But, you see, he chants japa. Yeah. He wants to go on Harinam. When I was up in Joburg just some weeks ago, end of November, he kept asking me, can we go on Harinam? It was very hard to understand what he's saying. Actually, his father sort of translated. He wanted me, on one Sunday program, he kept asking, can we go on Harinam? So, anyway, so what to speak of that? Even here is an elephant, a real animal, who became a devotee. And the story basically is that well, in his previous birth, he had been a great devotee named King Indradyumna. But he'd been cursed by Agastya Muni for not receiving him properly. So because he had been a devotee, even though he was cursed and he became a crocodile, but he was able not just to remember the Lord just like that, but some remembrance came. And we remember, don't we, the story of Bharat Maharaj, that he was a great devotee. But he became bewildered and became absorbed in thinking of a deer, like totally absorbed. We didn't go into the details, but some of the things he says, that my little deer, this earth is blessed by the touch of your lotus hoofs. He says that literally. So he got, really lost, even though he'd been a great devotee. But when he was born as a deer, there was some remembrance. So therefore, as a deer, he stayed at an ashram. Just as a minor point of interest, there's a story in Varshana of a couple of 100 years ago, some time ago, quite some time. One lion became attached to devotees. A male lion became attached to devotees and became tame. And they initiated him. And if I remember correctly, they gave him the name Gopal, and they would send him out to beg. They would put like a basket or a bag or something around his neck, and he learned to go door to door and sort of knock on the door, and they say he was the best collector of all. Yeah. Anyway. Right, okay, so this is what happened. He got cursed to become a crocodile for not receiving Agastya Muni properly. And no. He became cursed to become an elephant. Yeah, to become an elephant. So he became an elephant. He became Gajendra. And he was there with his associates, went into a river, got caught by a crocodile, who had been King Huhu, who pulled the leg of Devala Rishi while swimming and got cursed. That, you like to pull me underwater? Become a crocodile, then you can pull things underwater. So anyway, Gajendra as such, he got caught by the crocodile. And the crocodile was slowly, step by step, dragging him deeper into the water, and it was clear he wasn't going to make it. He couldn't withstand the crocodile. So remembrance from his previous life came. Just pray. There's someone up there. Pray to them. And he did. And the Lord came and killed the crocodile, who got liberated. And Gajendra got released. His life was saved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is now the 8th canto, and that's like chapter 2 to chapter 5. Then, from 5 to 25, the rest of the canto, chapter 5 to chapter 25, is the story, basically the story of Lord Vamana. And it is a long story. 20 chapters. That's a long story. But basically what happened was that because the demigods, because Lord Indra offended Devasa Muni, he got cursed. He and his demigod associates, they all got cursed. Devasa Muni gave Lord Indra was sitting on his elephant, Aravata. Devasa Muni handed him a garland from his own neck. Indra put it on the elephant. The elephant got, sort of bothered by this garland and pulled it off and just threw it down because he's an animal. And Devasa cursed Indra and the demigods that they would become too weak to fight. So they did. And actually, it goes back and forth. It really goes back and forth. First, the demons take over the heavenly planets. Then, on the suggestion of the Lord, the demigods made a truce with the demons so they could churn the milk ocean together. When they did that, a pot of nectar came out, which the demons grabbed. Demons, they're pretty fast on sense gratification. This pot of nectar gives extremely long life. Extremely long life. So now the demons have got it, and the demigods have not got it. It looks like the demons are just going to take over. So anyway, the Lord appeared as Mohini, female form, incredibly beautiful, just totally unimaginably beautiful. And she came and you could say she flirted with the demons, flattered them, and, gestured in all sorts of physical ways and all that. So the demons were just overwhelmed with her. And then she took the pot of nectar and gave it to the demigods. And the demigods quickly drank it. Didn't wait. They drank it. But one of the demons sneaked in amongst the demigods, Rahu, and he got some nectar. But Mohini saw that he's a demon. So with her chakra, she decapitated him, and the nectar was still in his mouth. It hadn't gone into his body. So his body died, but his head remained alive. And his head became, that's his Rahu, his head became a planet. And when there are eclipses, generally often it's Rahu. The sun and the moon told, or maybe either one or both of them, told Mohini, he's a demon. So Rahu, for revenge, he's always chasing the sun and the moon to eclipse them, to eat them. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. So then, what happened? Bali Maharaj, who's the king of the demons, worshipped, he and the demons, demon kings, worshipped their spiritual master Shukracharya and became very powerful. Even though Shukracharya is not a devotee, but Prabhupada makes the point there that if you really follow your teacher, particularly like a Vedic teacher, you'll become powerful. So they overthrew the demons, took over the heavenly planets. This is chapter 15 of the 8th canto. There are 25 chapters. So then Aditi, the mother of the demigods, did special yajna to get the Lord to appear and to take the universe or the heavenly planets back from the demons. So the Lord appeared as Vamana. And you all know the story of Vamana. Little boy, 5-year-old child, very sweet, very nice, but dressed as a saintly person in saffron and just looking so sweet and saintly. So, and Bali Maharaj was very fond of Brahmins. So he asked Vamana, little boy Vamana, what would you like? Tell me what you like, it's yours. And Vamana said, yeah, can I have as much land as I can cover with 3 of my own steps? And Bali Maharaj said to him, come on, I can give you a lot more than that. You want a planet? I'll give you a planet. You want a country? I'll give you a country. You want Chatsworth? I'll give you Chatsworth. You can have it. Take it. And Vamana famously answered, it's really such a statement, that if I could not be satisfied with the amount of land I can cover with 3 steps, then it wouldn't be possible for me to be satisfied with the whole universe. Yeah. So don't worry, I'll just take my 3 steps. My 3 steps. Not someone else's. So okay, it's agreed. So then first step, he covered the lower and middle planetary systems. His body just suddenly expanded. Second step, he covered the heavenly planets. That's all there is in the universe. There's nothing else. And so he turned to Bali and said, you told me I could have 3 steps of land. You've only given me 2. You're a cheater. You're cheating me. So he arrested Bali Maharaj and tied him up. And then Bali said, all right, the 3rd step, just place on my head. So in this way, he surrendered completely to Lord Vamana. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's really quite a story. And just another little side point, interesting point. Bali Maharaj had a daughter named something. And she was like a early teenage girl, something like that, or maybe even pre-teenage. So she's really into dolls and little babies. And when she saw little 5-year-old Vamana coming, looking so beautiful and so saintly, she thought to herself, I would like this child as my son. But when Lord Vamana expanded himself and then arrested her father, Bali Maharaj, then the girl thought, all right, I may have this child as my son, but when I do, I'll kill him. And in her next life, she became Putana. And she tried to kill Krishna, but Krishna killed her. So anyway, there you go, devotees. There you go. And now in the heavenly planets, in Indraloka, Lord Vamana lives there. He lives there as the younger brother of Lord Indra. So therefore he's called Upendra. It's one name of Lord Vamana. Upa Indra. That he's right next to Indra. Right next to Indra. Younger brother. So there you go, devotees. That's the 9th canto. What do you think of that? Hare Krishna. We're motoring through. How about the 9th canto? Ninth canto is somewhat different from the other cantos. It has some very unusual stories in it, which we won't go into. Like, there's one story of human sacrifice. Yeah. And there's some other strange stories. Sometimes it is called the black canto, meaning, sort of negative, like that. Yeah. And a lot of it is dealing with Vaivasvata Manu and those connected to him, related to him, family members, people like that. Vaivasvata is the 7th Manu. And we are now in the lifetime of Vaivasvata Manu. Yeah. So, but what we'll do, we'll look at certain parts of the 9th canto. Certain parts. First of all, chapters 4 and 5. The theme is Maharaj Ambarish. We'll have a look at Maharaj Ambarish. He's a very interesting person. Then chapters 10, 11, and 12 are the story of Lord Ramachandra. We'll have a little look at that because it's very interesting. Chapters 15 and 16 are about Lord Parasuram. And chapter 24, devotees, believe it or not, is introducing Krishna. It's the last chapter before the 10th canto. So it's just taking us into the 10th canto, which is all about Krishna. Yeah. And there are various other things discussed, which we won't go into. But Ambarish, chapters 4 and 5. Ambarish is really special. He's another great devotee on the level of bhava. Devasa Muni arrived at his palace one day, and Ambarish had been doing a big fast, a Ekadasi fast, for the benefit of the citizens of the world. But just when he's about to break the fast, Devasa Muni walks in and asks, and of course it's the etiquette, when a guest comes in, you have to offer them, would you like something? And so Devasa said, well, actually, I'd like a meal. But before I have one, I need to take a bath. So off he went to take a bath. But the meal was there because Ambarish was just about to break his fast. But now he couldn't, because you can't eat before a guest. And Devasa Muni is hypersensitive. If anyone does anything that could be construed as disrespectful towards him, he hits the roof and he curses. Yeah. So Ambarish didn't know what to do. He wanted to conclude the fast properly so that citizens would get the benefit. So he asked the Brahmins what to do. They said, you can drink water and you will have broken the fast, but you won't have eaten anything, so it will not actually be an offense. So he did that, completed the Ekadasi fast. Devasa came back, through his mystical powers understood he's taken something. And even though it was not an offense, the Brahmin said it will not actually be an offense, but you will technically have broken the fast. You won't need to do more to break the fast. But Devasa Muni unjustly became very angry. He had no right, because it was not an aparad. But still he became angry, because that's what he does. So he pulled a hair out of his head, produced a fiery demon who came to attack and kill Maharaj Ambarish. Can you imagine if someone drinks water before you've eaten, your guest, and the guest gets so upset that they want you killed? What do you think of that? It's a bit overboard, isn't it? I think it's a bit overboard, because that's Devasa Muni. Yeah. So for that, imagine if Maharaj Ambarish had eaten one samosa. We cannot imagine what Devasa would have done, but it would have been really drastic. So the demon came to kill Maharaj Ambarish. As it's coming, the Sudarshan chakra enters, kills the demon, and chases Devasa. Devasa goes and visits different demigods. This Sudarshan chakra is chasing me. Can you stop it? They all say, no, we don't have the ability to do that. So he comes to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva says, no, I can't stop it. It is the weapon of the Lord. You must go to the Lord. So Lord Shiva is one of the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. He allowed Devasa Muni into Vaikuntha temporarily so he could approach the Lord. but then he had to come out. So Durvasa went and begged the Lord, and the Lord explained at length how dear the devotees are to him. And just so, we get it clear, I'm just going to read a few verses. Well, how many? I'll read 2, I think, verses. But there's a number of verses in which he expresses his feelings about his devotees, including Maharaj Ambarish. So this is the 9th canto, chapter 4, verse 63. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahman, who's Durvasa, I'm completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I'm not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the cause of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee, even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. So, and there's a number of verses, as I said. Let me just read one more. It's verse 68. It's really an amazing verse. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I'm always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. And so you have offended Durvasa Muni. You have offended me extremely badly. Then it's interesting, in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his purport to verse 63, if I remember correctly, he says that Durvasa Muni is sort of flattering the Lord or appealing to the Lord. You are so merciful, you've got such a merciful heart. You're very merciful to the distressed. So with your merciful heart, please give some mercy to me because I'm very distressed. And the Lord says, you're right. I've got a very merciful heart, and I'm very merciful to the distressed. But the problem is, I don't have my heart any longer. I gave my heart away to my devotees. So if you want some of my mercy from my merciful heart, you must approach the devotee. You must go back to Maharaj Ambarish. Otherwise, I can't help you. I am helpless. I cannot, even though the chakra is my own weapon, I cannot stop it because of this offense to the devotee. So then, Durvasa Muni goes and apologizes, and Maharaj Ambarish, because he's such a nice devotee, he immediately forgives him. So then there's the story of Lord Ram, very abbreviated, of course, but basically the story is there. The kidnapping of Sita, the battle of Lanka, killing of Ravana, rescuing of Sita, all these things are there. And it's really very dramatic, actually. And the point is made that, how much Lord Ram was affected by the kidnapping of Sita. He was so incredibly, deeply affected by her kidnapping. Then he arranged for the great military operation building the bridge first of all, and then crossing the bridge and attacking Lanka. And eventually Ravana was killed. They say, here's quite a good one, I think it's from Ramayana, that initially when Lord Ram, when all of Ravana's enemy was dead, and he was the only one left, Lord Ram approached him the last night before the final day and said, look, just give me Sita back. I'll bring all your family, all your friends, all your soldiers. I'll bring them all back to life. And I'll make them forget that you and I were enemies. And I'll make them think that we've always been friends. And we will be friends. You can rule Lanka. And we'll be friends. Just give me Sita back. And Ravana famously answered, no. Talk about, have you ever made a wrong decision and regretted it afterwards? Talk about a wrong decision. So the next day, last day, Ram was firing arrows at Ravana's heads. Ravana had 10 heads. So one after the other, he's knocking the heads off, but then another head came back immediately. But Lord Ram's just continuing doing that. And he didn't fire at the heart of Ravana because Ravana was thinking of Sita. So Sita was in Ravana's heart. So Lord Ram would not fire an arrow at Ravana's heart. But then finally, head after head after head, Ravana got so angry, he forgot Sita. And then Lord Ram fired the Brahmastra, Lord Brahma's weapon. He fired the Brahmastra, which struck the heart of Ravana. And that was the end of Ravana. Yeah. And the thing is, in so many of these pastimes that we've touched on, through all the cantos up till now, in so many of these pastimes, there are really important lessons, really major lessons, like a jar meal. No matter how sinful you are, but if you chant the names of the Lord, you'll be saved. Yeah, that's the story. That's the lesson from the story of Ajamil. Like Prahlad and Nrsingadev and Hiranyakashipu, that no matter how powerful the opposition is, whatever result comes, it's by the mercy of Krishna. And Krishna will always look after his devotees. Yeah. And Bharat Maharaj, Gajendra, even if someone ends up as an animal, but they can still be saved. And all sorts of other things too. I mean, there are many, many stories with many lessons. Yeah. So there's a lesson in Lord Ram making his great military expedition to attack Ravana and rescue Sita. And it's just to rescue Sita. Lord Ram has no desire at all to get Lanka and take over and become, increase his kingdom. All he wanted to do was rescue Sita. That's all, nothing else. So the lesson is, what will the Lord not do for his devotee? Even millions of people died just so he could rescue his devotee, one devotee. So what will the Lord not do for his devotee? He'll do anything. And there's an interesting passage in Ramayana where Ravana, on the last day, his whole army is dead. They're all finished. It's just him. And Lord Ram's army, so many were killed, but they were all brought back to life. They were all brought back to life. So Ravana came out on the last day and looked out. There was the monkey army. And the number of warriors was, the Vedic number is 1 koti mahaoga, which is 1 followed by 64 zeros. Try and calculate that. It's a lot. But still, when Ravana looked out and saw this massive, incredibly massive number of warriors, Ravana thought, no problem, I'm just going to kill them all. So there's a lesson there. Don't underestimate the demon's capacity to be foolishly optimistic. So anyway, there is. So the Lord's dedication to Sita is really quite something. There's a couple of lessons actually. Let me just see here. Here's one lesson. During the reign of Lord Ramachandra, wait a minute. This is chapter 10, verse 53, is it? Yeah. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. And Prabhupada makes the point that all these facilities existed because Lord Ram was king of the world. And Prabhupada says a similar situation could be introduced immediately, even in this age of Kali. Yes. It is said, Kali Kali, Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his name, of his holy name, the Hare Krishna mantra. If we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna are still present. The spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation, even in this age of Kali. Hare Krishna. So then, let's see, then is a couple of chapters about Lord Parasurama. I mean, that's a bit of I won't go into that in detail. But 15 and 16 discuss Lord Parasurama. And then finally, the the last chapter introduces Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. So there's a whole genealogy that there's so many names. Vidarbha had 3 sons. One of them had a group of sons who became kings. Oh, okay. From one of the sons of Vidarbha came a son. From one of the sons of Vidarbha came a son named Krata. He had a son, would you believe, named Kunti. Then from Kunti came Vrishni, Nirvrita, and various others. And one Satvata. Satvata had 7 sons. One of them was Devavrida. And boy, I tell you what, it's complicated enough. Yeah. From Vrishni came Swapalka, who became the father of Akrura. You remember Akrura? Krishna's devotee, yeah. So, but one of them, Ahuka, had 2 sons named Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaka had 4 sons, 7 daughters. One of them was Devaki. So there's this whole genealogy, whoa, going through many generations. And we end up with Devaki. Yeah. And Vasudev married Devaki. Then Ugrasena had 9 sons headed by Kamsa. Anyway, it's complicated. I won't go through the whole thing. If you want to, any of you, just read the introduction, the chapter summary of chapter 24. So finally, at the end of the chapter, so here we are. Verse, where are we? It is anyway somewhere in this chapter, verse, okay, here we are. Verse 53 to 55 describes the 8 sons born of Sahadev were incarnations of the 8 Vasus. Vasudev begot highly qualified sons through the womb of Devaki. The 8th son was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna. Yeah. So here this is 9th canto, chapter 24, verses 53 to 55. And then to introduce Krishna, then there's some glorifications given, the last few verses of chapter 24 of the 9th canto. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, with the cooperation of Sankarsha and Balaram, performed activities beyond the mental comprehension of even such personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Yes, so like this, we come to the end of the 9th canto, that it's just a little overview of what Krishna does. Thereafter, this is the last verse of the 9th canto, verse 67. Thereafter, Lord Sri Krishna created a misunderstanding between family members just to diminish the burden of the world. Simply by his glance, he annihilated all the demoniac kings on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and declared victory for Arjuna. Finally, he instructed Uddhava about transcendental life and devotion, and then returned to his abode in his original form. So devotees, on Sunday, we will go through cantos 10, 11, and 12. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki